Welcome to our channel. Hi there, my name is Ranjan. I am a full stack DevOps engineer with 11.5 years of experience working in IT. I am also a 4.5 star rated Udemy instructor teaching more than 72,000 students worldwide. On this channel, my goal is to make you learn and grow by sharing my experience. So if you like my work, then do like this video, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe this channel for more such awesome videos in future. So let's get started. Thank you. Welcome. Let's go ahead and see what is CSS Grid and how we can use CSS Grid to achieve responsive layout using rows and columns. Let's go ahead and create another folder here called CSS Grids. Then let's go ahead and create a file here called grid.html and another file called grid.css. Click on Shift exclamation for generating the boilerplate code. Give a title. Let's link the CSS file and let's write something here. Let's open it in our live server. So there we have. In the next video, let's create the layout that we will use for our styling purpose. Thank you. Welcome. Let's go ahead and write down the HTML layout that we will use for styling. So first, I'm going to create a div with a class container, and then I'm going to create 6 more divs. So div with class box 1, and I will copy them 6 times or press Shift Alt and down arrow. So box 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We don't need this. Let's go ahead and style our container. So go to the grid.css. Let's apply margin and padding to 0 on the root level. Then let's style our container class, and I would say width of 90%, and I will give a border. Let's see how it looks. So here we have at the top, it's somewhere here. Let's write down something here in our container. Here we say box 1, paste everywhere. Let's check now. So it looks like this. And if you see, the box is at the corner, so we need to bring it at the center somewhere here. How can we do that with CSS? It's very easy. We just have to say Margin, let's give a margin of 60 pixel from the top and bottom on the y-axis. So this is for y-axis, top and bottom 60 60, and on the left and right we will give auto so that it will come at the center. This helps us brings it center horizontally. So let's see. So our box is now horizontally centered. Perfect. Let's go ahead and give the color of the text. Later on we can give the color of the text. For now I think we are good enough with this box. And in the next video what we will do is we will try to see by giving each box a background color. Thank you. Welcome. Let's go ahead and give some width or the background color to our boxes. So I can say box 1 background color of this. Let's do the same for other boxes. Let's bring them in one line so that we can see it easily. This is box 1, box 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Let's give a different color. Blue, orange, green, red, gray. Let's see how it looks now. So this is how it looks. Let's make the text as white. So we'll give the container color as white. So now we have the layout. In the next video, we will see how to apply the grid to it. Thank you. Welcome. Now we want to see the effect of CSS Grid. For that, I would like to go to our container and just apply display grid. If you remember, applying display flex earlier helps us automatically align items on a row basis. But here, when we apply display grid, nothing will happen. Everything remains as is. Because how it works is, with the display grid, we need to tell how many columns and rows it has to align itself. So let's go ahead and tell it to align itself in 2 rows. So when I say 2 rows, the way I tell CSS that align itself in 2 rows is like grid template rows. So what is this template stuff? So here, the whole box that you see, this box is a grid template. And in this grid template, I am now asking it to apply 2 rows. So maybe 1 row and then at the top and second at the bottom. But then we have to tell CSS Grid to apply 2 rows with the help of providing the height of each row. So let's say I will say height of first row is 120 and height of second row is also 120. So remember what we are saying here is create 2 rows each of height 120 pixel. So if we now go and check, you will see it has created 2 rows each of height 120 px. Perfect. And now if I want to see, let's say by applying the number of columns, let's say I want to divide this into number of columns. So that I can do by simply going and saying here the opposite of this. So I can say grid template columns, and now let's say if I want to divide in three columns, so I can say 120 pixel, 120 pixel, 120 pixel. And here I say divide in three columns by providing the width of each column. Create three columns, create three columns each of each of width 120 px. So let's go and check the effect. So if you see, it has now perfectly aligned our all the boxes into two rows like this, and three columns like this, and this. And the height of two rows is 120 from here to here, here to here, and the width of three columns is number one column width, number two column width, and number three column width. So this is how CSS grid gets affected or applied with the help of providing the number of rows by providing the height of each row, providing the number of columns by providing the height of width of each column. So if I would say here apply another 120 pixel, which means I am saying split it into three rows each of width 120 px. You see, now this is another. So I told this grid template, which is this square box, to split into three rows, 1, 2, and 3. Of course, we don't have any content for the three rows, third row, so it's showing us nothing. This is it for this video. Let's continue in the next one. Thank you. Welcome. So far what we have done is we have just controlled every styling with the help of the container only. We haven't touched anything on the elements or on the childs. So everything we are controlling with the help of container. So let me go ahead and reduce this, remove this second or the third row, and then also reduce the width, let's say a little bit to 80%, and let's see how it looks. If I refresh, yes, it's looking like this. But what I want is I want to basically make sure that this box, which is occupying this much space, should occupy the whole space. The complete space should be occupied, and that's the case for in the responsive also. So in the responsive, if I go here and I'm trying to make it responsive, yeah, it is already responsive. So when I do this, it should occupy the whole space. But now it is not. So in order to do that, if we want this box to occupy the whole space, we have now given it this particular column width, because in the column we provide the width of each column. So here we have said it the column is 120 px. So if I want this not to be fixed here but to occupy the whole space, I should not give in terms of pixel as unit. I should use something called as fractional unit. Fractional unit, FR. That's a new unit introduced for CSS Grid to achieve this. So if for the last column, which is this column, this box 3 and box 6, if I say the width it should be from here until here, if I want to say this, then I have to say 1 FR. So I have to remove this and I have to say 1 FR, 1 fractional unit. So if I go now here, you see this box has occupied the whole space. This box has occupied the whole width. And if I now do whatever, it is quite responsive and the whole space is occupied. Similarly, if I want each of the boxes to occupy the same space, I will just go ahead and in each of the column width I will make to 1 FR. So that they will equally distribute the space among themselves. So 1 FR, 1 FR. Perfect. Let's go and check now how it looks. So now our boxes are occupying the equal width because the column width, that is this one, is now 1 FR 1 FR. So if the screen size reduces, they understand automatically what does 1 FR mean, because they have to fill the complete template box. Because remember, the template grid template is this box. Alright, this is it for this video. Let's continue in the next one. Thank you. Welcome back. Let's say now I want to provide some gap between my columns. So this is one column, this is another column, this is another column. Let's say I want a gap in between my columns. So for that, we have to basically go ahead and apply a property called grid column gap. So we say grid column gap, and I will say 15 px. Let's go ahead and see the effect. So you see there is a nice 15 pixel gap between my columns. Similarly, if I want to apply a gap in my rows, I can also do that by saying grid column rows, grid rows gap, grid rows gap. And let's say I will keep this also as 15 pixel. So if I go now, I can see a nice layout with gap in between them created. So I can now reduce them, increase them. It is completely responsive. It looks perfect. And remember, all this we have done just by doing styling to the container, not even touching the individual element. Thank you. I will see you in the next video. Welcome back. Let's go ahead and apply some shorthand way of applying this styling. For that, I will just not touch this one anymore. Maybe write a little bit of comment here. Fractional unit occupies whole width in case of row height. Alright, so now it's time. What I will do is I will just break it down, this whole thing. Let me go here and change the here as container 1 and try to use the shorthand version of this whole stuff. So I will say container 1, and if we go now and see, everything will be gone, broken, because we removed the styling. So I will just copy this part for now. And now we will apply the shorthand version. So let's say if I have to say I want the grid template rows 3 times, I mean 2 times, let's say, of 50 pixel or 50 times of 10 pixel, then I cannot just say 10 pixel, 10 pixel, 10 pixel 50 times. I cannot continue to do that. It is so cumbersome task. So what I should do is I will say repeat. There is a function introduced for grid called repeat and say number of times. So I will say number of times is 2 times to create 2 rows, each of with just to 120 pixels. So here I can now write the comment. It says create 2 rows, each of height. Remember, rows is always height 120 pixel. Similarly, if I want to say, so if I go now here, you see it created 2 rows of this. If I make it to 20, you will see the effect. See, 20 rows automatically created. It's all the way up to here. Perfect. But now we just needed 2. So it is so easy, see, with the repeat function. Similarly, if I want to say grid template columns and I want to create 3 columns. So I will say repeat 3 columns or each of width 120 px. So let's put a comment here. So create 3 columns each of width 120 px. So if we go now here, you will see it is occupying this. But if I want them to occupy full width and height, then we should not give this. Instead, we should say 1fr and 1fr. So they are going to occupy full height and width. So here, don't make it 1fr because height it should take something. So let's give 120 pixel. But width it works with 1fr. See, it worked. Alright, so this is the shorthand version to provide the grid template rows and grid template columns. Thank you. Welcome. Let's go ahead and now see if there is a shorthand for the column gap and row gap. Yes, definitely. So the shorthand for the column gap and row gap is just grid gap and then just specify how much we need. So if I say 15 px, it's going to be exactly what it was here. So this is the longhand version and this is the shorthand version. So if I go now, I will see exactly the same effect. Thank you. Welcome. Let's try to understand the concept of row lines and column lines. So let me draw something out. So 1, 2, 3, I will create 1, 2, 3 and something like this. And maybe I will also draw this. Also draw this at the top. Perfect. So let's say now what are the row lines and what are column lines. So these lines that you see, this line, this line, this line, these lines are called row lines. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these are called row lines. Similarly, these lines that you see, number 1, number 2, 3, 4. So these are called column lines. These are called column lines. These are called column lines. So why are these row lines and column lines important? Because with the help of this concept of row lines like this, and column lines which is this, this, and this, with row lines and column lines, we can realign our grid elements wherever we want. We can move their positions. Inside our grid template, if we want to move the position of our grid elements, we will do it with the help of the concept called row lines and column lines. Hence, this is important to understand which are called row lines and which are called column lines. Thank you. Let's continue in the next video. Welcome. So now we understand the row lines and column lines. So let's go ahead and try to move this box 5 position and bring it to the position of box 2. For that, we have to now understand again in this picture what are the different row lines and column lines. So we have 1 row line, 2 row line, 3 row line, 1 column line, 2 column line, 3 column line, 4 column line. So now if we have to move this to here, then we have to apply the row start and row end, column start and column end positions. So let's go ahead and apply that. So the box which we want to move, we will apply the style there. So in the box 5, here I'm going to go and say first I will say move this to, let's go ahead and say move this to first here. So for to move here we have to say row number 1 should be the start and row number 2 should be the end. So we'll say grid hyphen row start, and one grid should be the starting point, and similarly grid hyphen row hyphen end should be the second row. Doing this, our box is already here. So we said start row 1 and in row 2. Now if we want to bring our box here, we have to say start column 1, column 2. So start column 2, end column 3. Let's go ahead and do that. So we'll say grid column start, which is at 2, that is here, and end is grid column end, and that should be 3. So start at 2 and end at 3. So other boxes are untouched, just we move the position of box 5 from here to here with the help of the grid row start end and column start end property. Just you specify properly the row lines and column lines numbers, that's it, and it will automatically be taken care of. Thank you. Welcome. Let's look at some shorthand properties for these two. So I will just comment this. So press Ctrl forward slash and also comment this. And now we can just say grid row, and we have to just give the starting and the ending point. So I will say start is one row and end is second. Similarly, I will say grid column. I will say starting point is grid 2, which is this one, and end is by 3. Perfect. So if I go and see the behavior, nothing will change. So this is how we can use the shorthand property. Let's say I have to span my this box, which is here, box 1, to occupy the whole space. So if I want to tell this, then I can tell it like this. So I have to go to the box 1, and in the box 1 I will have to tell box 1 grid column. If we use the shorthand property, I will say start from 1, and if I want it to move to, let's say, here, so 1, 2, 3. So it will occupy this much. So if I want to say 3 here, then it's going to occupy like this whole. If I want to say to occupy whole complete width, then I have to say 4. So not 34, it should be 4. So you see, it occupied the whole 4 width. Perfect. There's also another way. If I want to say just occupy everything, so I will say -1. Then also it occupies the whole width like this. So start is this, end is -1, which means it comes down to here. So in this way, we can of course align or a single box element to complete width. So of course it has broken other layouts, but we don't have to worry about that. Just we need to understand how it works. So there's another way also to apply this by saying this as span, and I can say 3. It has the same effect, nothing changes. But the best approach is to use -1. Or if you know the column, if you know the number of column, this is what this was 1, this was 2, this was 3, this was 4. Give the number of column as well. So you will have the same effect, 4. So better is if you don't know the column, then give -1. So it will span from the first to the end like this. Perfect. So this is it for this video. See you in the next one. Welcome back. Now let's look at how can we fix this problem. So to better understand this problem, what I will do, I will quickly go and take this one from here, cut this and bring it in this particular box, in the second box, and paste it here. So what I'm saying is the box 2 should span from start to end. So that is correct. So box 2 is spanning from start to end. Let's say if I want to say box this 5 should span from here to column 2 to end. So I can also do that. So I can say box 5 column 2 to end, which is -1. So this is fine. So for these boxes for whom I am specifying the height and width, they are called explicitly. We are specifying the explicit height and width have been provided. Let's say here explicit width have been, or the height has been provided for each rows. So we are saying 2 rows with height this. But what about these rows? These rows that you are seeing, what about these rows? Where do they go? Because these rows we haven't specified any height, so they are kind of not looking good. So to solve this problem, what we have is in the grid layout we have something called as grid auto rows. And here if we specify something, let's say if I want to say 120 pixels, so whatever elements or boxes are pending, they should occupy the height of row as 120 px. So if we go now, you see these boxes which are not explicitly defined, but now they implicitly get their height. So if we increase the number of boxes also, if we increase the number of boxes, let's say I will increase these boxes, then they will also automatically get this implicit height. You see this, they get automatically the implicit height. So this is how we can fix that problem, that if some box or the row column items are spanning large, what the other, if they don't look good, you just have to specify on the container grid auto rows and provide the width. Like here we have provide the height of the row. Always remember row means height. Provide the height of the row as same as the other ones, and then other things will be taken care by the grid layout automatically, and we will have a nice looking layout overall. Thank you. Welcome back. Let's say I have to align these boxes vertically at the center. So for that we have to go to our container and apply a property called align items center. Although it has different values like center, stretch, by default is stretch, and then end, but we have to align it at center. So let's go ahead and see the effect. You see these boxes are aligned at the center. If you see, if I hover here, you see the boxes are aligned vertically center. Let's say I have to also align the boxes horizontally center. For that there is another new property that was introduced called justify items. Justify items, and this also has values like start, end, stretch, center. By default is stretch. So center, if I go and check now, you will see the effect that these boxes are all vertically and horizontally centered. This was occupying 2 columns, so it is centered here, but other boxes are equally centered, these ones. So this way you can align the items horizontally or vertically in center of your layout. Thank you. Welcome back. Now it's time to make our layout responsive. So for that I will go ahead and comment this stuff, this as well, and this as well. And what I would like to do is, without applying media queries, my layout should become responsive. So for that, let me go ahead and apply a property. and that property name, I will get rid of this and I will say repeat, and inside repeat I will say auto fit, auto hyphen fit is the first property, and then I will say min max is a function, and in the min max function I will say minimum one column should occupy the width of 120 pixel, and maximum it should go for one fractional unit, which is completely it should occupy the whole width. So let's go ahead and check now. So here we have the layout, and if I move down, scroll down, see it automatically adjusts to my styling. So it is occupying the minimum width of 120 and a maximum, every box is taking the full width. So if I don't give maximum of one FR, if I say 120, you will see what will happen. You will also get a small gap, which is not good. But we wanted that there should not be any gap, so we should give 1 FR. So it will now occupy very nicely. It will start to fall back. So we can also use autofill, but best is to go with auto fit. So if we go and see now, you will not see any difference in behavior, but the best is use auto fit. So remember, you just have to on the column say repeat auto fit. Every column should be automatically fit. Min max minimum, it should occupy, the column should occupy 120 pixel, and maximum one fractional unit, which means it should span to a complete row. So by this you can give your own width to your columns and make it responsive. Thank you.